then we dropped a couple of atom bombs and everybody went home.
Right.
Yeah, and really, everybody thinks that World War II actually started December 7th, 1941. Meanwhile, Europe had been fighting since September of 39.
Right.
The Japanese had gone into China, I think, in 1931. You know, in 1937, you had,
Right.
you know, the rape of Nanking. You had a whole bunch of things. So
Japan was expanding, and because of imperialism.
Right.
Yes.
It was in the Japanese. It was all, I feel, economic. They wanted to base the, you know, the Great East Asia co-prosperity sphere.
Right.
So there's a whole bunch of stuff, and I think the Coast Guard was crucial in the Battle of the Atlantic, and also because of what they contributed in the Pacific, mostly in their training of running landing craft. But the second book is going to cover everybody from the Army Air Corps, Air Force, Marines, huge numbers of things I never even knew about. UDTs come in, you know, underwater demolition teams, on and on and on and on. The LSTs, what they call large slow targets, you know, it's a whole bunch of stuff. And all these people that have never had a voice in history. Sorry, long answer, short question. I apologize.
No, it's okay. It's completely fine. Thank you, though, for this wonderful response. Now I'm going to shift my focus more into the book, inside the book, or some of the elements.
Okay.
Throughout the book, there's one. I'm going to talk specific about that theme. That I saw that the theme of racism or getting united, no matter what your ethnicity is. It took place throughout the book. Like there was one African American who was hesitating to getting drafted into the military or into the Coast Guard.
Mm-hmm.
But then another guy was saying to him that, hey, in the war we are all same. So
yeah,
would you just shed a little light upon this theme of racism, or maybe some other themes?
Yeah, that's a good point. The Coast Guard is a very small operation. The ships are comparatively small. There was racism, there was prejudice, but it wasn't as ugly as it got in some other areas. Because you're on a ship, you've got 150, 200 people. You have to depend on them. Your life depends on them.
Right.
It doesn't have its place. And I think the story you're referring to was one of the greatest ones. The African American, the black guy, came out of boot camp. They were in a bar in Baltimore, and the bar, you know, and this redneck says, "We're going in. You come in with them."
Right.
You're talking 1941, 42. This is unheard of. And the black man, the African American, couldn't get served. The redneck hit him his drink. Bartender, you know, whatever, and the redneck tore the place apart.
Right. Right.
Because they were all part. That wasn't always the case, but there wasn't this overt discrimination. There was some. There was, we had Filipino stewards. All they were allowed to do was be servants, if you will, to the officers, and this carried on. But they eventually became very good at gunners. They manned anti-aircraft guns. One of the African Americans who was on the Alexander Hamilton was a hero. The Navy wouldn't give him a medal. Later on, I found a photograph of him, and he was the engineman, what they call motor machinist mate, motor mag, on landing craft in southern France. He's holding up a helmet with a hole in it from shrapnel. So the racism in the Coast Guard was possibly there, but it wasn't allowed. The guys wouldn't, within their own ships, cutters, didn't have the time for it. They're too busy trying to survive, trying to save other people, to put up with this, I would call nonsense. It wasn't nonsense. It isn't nonsense because it's so pervasive still. But, okay, again, long answer, short question. But that's the feeling I came across. And every African American I talked with, and I talked to several who had been in the Coast Guard at the time, have the same feeling that, yeah, this was a pretty good outfit to be in because the guys really looked after one another, both on ship and on liberty, when they didn't have to associate with each other.